Deals a ground ball in the infield to Gleyber Torres. Throws to first in time. Eastern Division in the American League over. Yankees win.
It's the toughest division to win. You got to pack a lunch, as I like to say, when you're playing these teams.
Good morning, everybody. Today is September 28th, 2022. It's my wedding anniversary, and the Yankees woke up in Canada this morning as the American League Eastern Division champions. In this video, I'm going to talk about the rest of the season, what the Yankees are going to do. Is Judge going to sit tonight? It's very typical for teams to sit their star players the day after you clinch, especially on AstroTurf, and with a day off tomorrow, good chance to get him 2 days off, kind of refresh his mind and give him a chance to tie or break the American League home run record at home. I guess we'll see. We'll talk about Giancarlo Stanton. We'll talk about Oswaldo Cabrera. We'll talk about the layoff between the end of the season and the playoffs. Let's go. All right, so as we continue to wait for the Aaron Judge history to take place, the Yankees have sealed up the division. Last night was a pretty well-played game in Toronto. You fell behind early after the home run by Springer, but you battled back. Gleyber Torres was swinging the bat well all night. He's gotten back into line drive mode. One up the middle, one through the 5.5 hole. He also beat the shift last night. Aaron Hicks has been swinging the bat a little bit better. He roped one last night. Also made a great throw late in the game. It's what you want. There's that base hit by Gleyber. Just continues to make good contact. And the Yankees are going to need some offense for the postseason. It seems in recent years, like when the Yankees have gone out in the postseason, it's been a matter of not hitting with runners in scoring position. IKF has done a really nice job this year hitting in those situations, but the playoffs are an entirely different animal. The crowd is different. The way they pitch you is different. The atmosphere, the pressure, everything can add up to a lot tougher at bat in those high leverage situations. So see if he comes through, but Gleyber Torres has been there, and if he's swinging the bat well, and he's been pretty clutch this season, you can really see him factoring in as the Yankees try and win the American League, and it's not going to be easy. And one thing that's going to be different in this year that is an undetermined factor is the 5-day layoff for division champions. Now, baseball's a game where it's about timing, it's about rhythm. How often do we see somebody miss several games and then come back and struggle with their timing for the first few days? So over the next 8 games and then 5 off days before the division series, the Yankees are going to be facing kind of a tough tight walk between getting guys enough rest so that they're fresh and keeping their timing in a place where you can hit against a team that just won the wild card round, that is carrying some momentum. We've seen wild card teams get that momentum and carry it to the World Series before. So that is going to be a tough matchup, no matter who they play in the first round, whether it's the Guardians or the Mariners. Now, if it's the Mariners, they're going to have to use Castillo, and that could end up working for you or against you in a series, because it might allow you to set up your pitching a little bit better with the advantage early in the series. But then, if you don't win those early games, you're facing Castillo at home later in the series, and it's going to be a lot tougher. So let's hope that the Yankees win early in their division series rounds so that they don't put extra undue pressure on themselves. I think these next 8 days are going to be about a few things. Obviously, the Aaron Judge home run race. He wants to get it over. The Yankees want to get it over. Generally, you see guys sit after the division is clinched. I don't know if that's going to happen with Judge. There's a couple of factors that make me think that maybe he will sit. One, he's been pressing, obviously. And number 2, he's been on the AstroTurf up there. And number 3, the Yankees have a day off tomorrow, so you'd be able to get him 2 days off. And then they head back to New York, where they take on the Orioles in a 3-game set before they head out to play the Texas Rangers. And if Aaron Judge sits tonight, you decrease his chances of breaking the record by a little bit, but you also allow him to break the record at home. And I think the Orioles will give him pitches to hit. They are out of it, and there's no reason for them to intentionally walk him or pitch him all that carefully, other than they don't want to give up the record breaker. So I think that we'll see Aaron Judge probably sit tonight, but I could be wrong. He might want to be in there. There's been some talk that DJ LeMahieu could be activated. I personally think I would hold him out a little bit longer, let him play in New York, get him off of that turf if you don't need him. He's obviously got the toe issue. If you can avoid using him, then he might not have to play on turf again for the rest of the season. So I say just hold him out and play him in New York. Giancarlo Stanton has looked absolutely atrocious the last couple of days. It looked like he was getting it together. He hit a couple of balls hard on the last homestand. He had the walk-off grand slam. That was an amazing moment. But he's gone back into that rut. And he's been a guy that's been so crucial to the Yankees in the postseason that mission priority number one, after keeping everybody healthy, is to get Giancarlo Stanton right before the playoffs. Because he's a guy who can carry you in a series. We've seen that before. He played well against the Indians, now the Guardians, in the wild card series a couple of years ago, 2020. He played well against the Rays, and then last year he went deep in the wild card game. The man can absolutely shine during pressure moments. And he's got essentially 8 games to get going. He's not going to play every single one of those games. You figure he's going to play 6 games. So 24, 25 plate appearances, something like that, to get going. It's going to be the number one priority of the Yankees, to get this guy going. Number 2, you got to get the bullpen figured out. Now, I've seen some good signs. Ross seems like he's throwing the ball pretty well. Trevino seems like he's rounding into form a little bit. He had a good night last night. It's interesting that Aroldis Chapman, there was some talk about him getting DFA'd earlier this week because the Yankees might have needed to clear a roster spot. They did not DFA him. But I'm not sure he's going to be on a playoff roster, which is interesting because he makes $20+ million. He's going to be a free agent soon. And who would have thought the guy who was your closer to begin the season wouldn't even be on the postseason roster if healthy? There's been some talk about Matt Carpenter possibly coming back for that Texas series. Now, his medicals show that he's improving. But look, he hasn't had any at-bats. He hasn't seen any tough pitching in a while. He is 36 years old. I just don't know if his timing is going to have time to get right before the playoffs. One thing I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees do is have intra-squad games. Do you guys remember 2020? As the teams were gearing up for the season, they didn't have spring training. What they had were intra-squad games where the team essentially splits into 2 sides and you play each other. I remember specifically Clark Schmidt pitching against Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and striking them out and looking really good. But I think that would be a good idea because you are able to get some live hitting done against good quality arms. Maybe you have some guys who are not going to be on the playoff roster pitch those intra-squad games as a way to stay healthy, to stay ready if needed. Clark Schmidt, if he's not going to be on the roster, he could be a guy that throws a sim game against the Yankees offense, and you allow everybody to get 3 or 4 at-bats, and you can do it really quickly, and you can do that a couple of days in a row. There's been some talk about Andrew Benintendi possibly being able to make it back by the American League Championship Series should the Yankees get there. He's getting his stitches out. But again, is he going to have time to ramp up against big league pitching, to rehab? Minor league season is over. So they're going to have to do it on the side. And can you go from side work to hop in there against Justin Verlander in Game 5 of the ALCS? I don't know. I think this might be a season where the Yankees rely on some of the kids. It'll be interesting to see how Oswaldo Cabrera responds to postseason pressure. He seems like one of those guys who rises to the occasion. Some guys you see get called up to the major leagues. and they just kind of fold, right? They don't look like they can handle the pressure. We've seen that from a number of players. I'm not going to name any names. But some guys, when they get the call, it's like an injection of confidence. It's, getting quality batting practice, getting quality facilities. It just makes them a better player. And it's interesting to see that sometimes the prospects who are not thought of as like the number one guy end up being the best players. Robinson Cano wasn't the number one prospect, and when he got to the major leagues, he absolutely dominated. Aaron Judge was ranked lower as a prospect than Gleyber Torres. So you never know with prospects. You never know with personalities. But Oswaldo's got the type of energy that I think plays up in a postseason, right? You could see him getting a big hit, and he seems to energize the guys around him. I think Peraza has the same effect, but I don't anticipate he'll even be on the playoff roster. He just hasn't played enough. But I do think you're going to see him more over the next several games as they try and get him some major league experience. IKF, I think, has done a better job with the bat. He's obviously hitting for a little bit more pop. A few people have mentioned that he's definitely getting into his legs a little bit more in his stance and in his swing. But defensively, while he does make the occasional shining play, not sure I 100% trust him in Game 7 of the World Series on a routine double play ball. That's just me. But that's what the Yankees are going to go with. So we have not done a voicemail show in a while. So when I don't do them for a while, the voicemails kind of die out. But I will be doing a postseason preview show that does have a lot of voicemails as part of it. So go ahead and call in with your postseason predictions, your postseason thoughts. I think it's going to be a really interesting year just because of that 5-day layoff and because the Yankees are a better team than they have been in the last couple of years. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely want to hear from you guys. Hopefully Judge gets the history-making home runs in the near future. I've got a documentary ready to go when that happens, and I'll see you next time.